As people leaders, we find ourselves sitting on a precipice of transformative shifts and growth opportunities. And, forward thinking imperatives that we're going to be discussing and, of course, coaching in our upcoming executive wellness leadership program.
Yeah.
So, what are some significant shifts you have seen over the years? And again, for those who can see our screen here, you'll see these 5 shifts. And Marc's going to walk us through them very briefly here in just a minute. So, again, what are some significant shifts you've seen over the years? And can you speak to how these shifts will be a key player in achieving
Yeah.
cultural transformation and being responsive to the evolving needs and
Yeah.
demands of organizational and employee well-being in the years ahead?
Sure. Would you like me to sort of give you my context of the historical perspective of how the
Yeah,
field has gotten to where we are today?
absolutely. I'd love that.
Okay. So, I started, it seems like a long time ago, and it was 1978. And at that time, the focus was primarily on physical fitness, because the challenge at that particular time had a lot to do with heart disease and things of that nature. So there was a good reason for it to be focused that way. And it was organizations' first kind of touch points with being responsible in some way for creating a place where people were encouraged to take care of themselves. That was the instigation of that. Very quickly, over a number of years, that started to translate into more demands for extended levels of education, which
Mm,
was called health promotion at that
right.
time. So that included, more emotional well-being and self-care in
And
general.
what period are we
Uh,
talking in 70s or
now we're
80s right
talking
now?
now we're talking 80s.
80s, okay.
Yeah, and then in the 90s, the wellness concept started to seep into the consciousness, which was such a good thing because it expanded the view of people going beyond preventive levels of care to self care and then starting to think about actually using it to plan a good life,
Mm-hmm.
which was, the inferences and the how would I say, the instigation for that began in the 90s. And then in right around, middle 2005, 2010, in that range, well-being started to creep into the dialogue. So in essence, what's occurred is now we're talking about light speed change.
Mm.
So from the 70s, late 70s to 2000, and creeping into 2010 and beyond, it started to pick up momentum in terms of the challenges of work and life because of the demands that were being put on people in the 24/7, 365 environment, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, boom, get hit with the pandemic. And all of a sudden, people have to sit back and start thinking about, who am I? Where am I? And what am I going to be when I reemerge?
Yeah.
And companies also are taking that lens. So we're emerging into that space, which gives us even more reason to be thinking about people's lives.
Mm. So we're at,
And
we're in
uh,
2023 now. Like how would you define if you were asked to define where we are right now, in terms of our focus or where
yeah,
you maybe should be,
I,
where we are, where we should be, maybe.
I think it's the linkage of our lives
Mm.
as individuals, as family members, and as part of a larger community.
And do you
And
think,
then, our
sorry,
yeah,
I want to
go
ask
ahead.
you, do you think that might have been influenced by everything went through over the 3 years of the pandemic?
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I think it would have come anyway,
Okay.
because the generational changes are also influencing that.
Right.
But it certainly gave it impetus and speeded it up for
For
sure.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And now, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, the intergenerational aspect of things
Right.
is impacting, um, how we appreciate ourselves in relationship to our work, and in turn, how an employer appreciates how they embrace us and partner with us to get really great work done.
Yeah, and that's sort of really
Yep.
sort of gives a good overview of everything we're going to talk about in,
No,
this
exactly,
podcast,
exactly.
right? So let's
Yeah,
just quickly, for the benefit of those watching the video and also listening to our podcast, let's just go through quickly the 5 shifts. So I'll just get you to quickly identify what they are, and then we'll walk through the slides and go a little more
yeah,
detail.
sure, sure. So the total life employee experience is a sort of more holistic way of embracing that partnership I just referred to,
Right. And then the
the
shift.
employee and the organization.
Yeah. And then
And
shift 2.
the life cycle is the stages of a person's career as they sort of work through their relationship with a given employer. So there's a life cycle. We have to treat people in that life cycle in certain ways. And then we have the multiple generations. We have, four, there was five, and now four, for the most part, generations working together, all human beings with lives and different interests and different needs during that lifespan. And then the longevity era is a really significant one in the sense that with extended lives, people are either having to work longer because of the challenges of financing their life in general,
Mm-hmm.
or the choice to because they want to have significance for a longer life. And it's in the best interest of employers to embrace both of those challenges as ways in which they can be supportive of and inclusive of the needs for education around all that.
Right. And then shift
Okay?
5 is
And
the
the shift five is so the underlying of what I was talking about
right.
earlier, which is there's a move from, and I'm going to add one more word, well, health, fitness, health promotion, wellness, well-being, and I'm going to throw into the ring total life well-being for the lifespan.
So shift 1, the total life employee experience. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
So the employer experience is basically a design that a company provides to engage and recruit and retain an employee through the tenure of their employment. And they offer meaningful work and meaningful life and work resources, which well-being is a part of.
Mm,
So it's in the best interest of the people in our field to make sure they're part of that architecture.
right.
Not only some people are, but I think it's a mandate to really
Yeah.
start moving in that direction.
And
Yeah,
if I could just put it out there and you can add to that, for
yeah,
those who are key players in everything we're talking about in these shifts. I'm thinking, well, we all have a responsibility with respect to these shifts, but in predominantly like the people leaders, your HR, your workplace wellness leaders, your executive coaches, I would put the call to action out there as you're listening to Marc to think about, what's your understanding of these shifts? What's your role? Where is your organization right now with respect to these shifts? And what can you even take from, this few-minute presentation and get more curious about, right?
yeah. And one very significant point here on the experience is that that's something that an employee is given a narrative by the employer saying, as you work with us,
Mm-hmm.
this will be a significant part of your experience with us. Wellness and well-being
Right.
and total life
Right from the
need to
minute,
be part of that narrative
right from day one when we're onboarding
right
these
from day one.
employees. Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Okay.
exactly right.
Yeah. So shift 2.
So shift two is sort of a piggyback on the employee experience, and it's getting more granular into what that experience is going to be like. So we have people who come into the organization at various stages of their career, or who in turn have been employed with the employer through different stages, both of those situations.
Mm,
So we have we have recruitment and onboarding. Obviously, people come in, they're influenced by their first day one, and we want to be part of that. Then they have early career development. So in their early career development, it's people who have transitioned from university into their first job or something of that nature. And we have to be sort of sensitive to the fact that they need certain transitional support as it pertains to their life transitioning to work, which is well-being.
mm-hmm.
Correct. So then we move to mid-career. And when we move to mid-career, people are settling down, getting a little bit older in their lifespan and their age, might be starting to have families. Different kinds of life circumstances are starting to impact them in reference to their needs for flexible work and things of that nature. Those are the things we have to consider. In the later stages of career and later stages of life, we have people who are moving through the transition time to potential pre-retirement and or making and establishing some second career in their life, maybe with this company they're with, or perhaps in entrepreneurship when they leave. It's all in the best interest of the company to be creating opportunities for people in their late career to continue to give their best to the company, obviously while they're employed, but also receive the kind of support from the organization, anticipating their needs as they transition. Right. Very important. The next item slice on that wheel is the leader and management development, which is so critical.
Right.
Leaders and managers as coaches, as mentors, as thinking partners, as support systems to all people in all levels of their career arc, if you will, have to have the skills and the knowledge and the know-how to, one, identify situational needs and support for people at various stages of their life and career. That's important as well. Then people move through retirement, and we have opportunities there to help them make that transition. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be in the best interest of the folks in our field to recruit those people to come back as ambassadors.
Yeah, so good stuff. So shift 3, multiple generations, intergenerational approaches to well-being. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, this is, a really important segment of the challenge today that I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. We have all these generations working in the workplace together today, and the dynamics of it are intense and have challenges and opportunities. Yeah. The challenges are they tend to be siloed. Mm-hmm. And how would I say, segregated by unfair biases, I think. And as a result of that, leaders and managers, team members, person to person, we're having our challenges communicating effectively, building community together, and respecting each other in order to do our best work. Mm-hmm. So people are, how would I say, accomplishing things in spite of themselves in certain ways.
And talking about the sharing of tacit knowledge between generations, right? And, it brings back to mind Senge's learning organization, right? I think, it would behoove us all to go back and reread his work.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Shift 4, the longevity era, employment and careers over extended years. Anything further you want to comment on that?
Well, again, all of the things we're talking about here are not silos. Mm-hmm. We're presenting a whole in parts as we go through these 5 segments and have 5 shifts. The longevity era is the culture that we're working in.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of that as we provide our services, to be not only thinking about the needs across generations and age and life stage, we also have to be working on helping those folks help each other.
Nice.
Because the era of longevity gives us wisdom that continues to be evolving in our culture. When we have people that are 20 to 80, that's a gift. Right. That's being very, very underappreciated. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily only by the employer. It gets underappreciated because of the biases that each generation has about each other attitudinally.
Right. And then what about,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, that's good. It's all good. What about shift 5 then, the total well-being for the lifespan, total life well-being for the lifespan?
And this helps us think about what we just talked about, which is by having folks at an earlier age develop a lifespan focus, they can plan for the iterations of their generational and aging patterns to prepare for them.
Okay, so thanks, Marc. This concludes our introduction to the 5 transformative shifts for purposes of our video that we're going to show on our Executive Wellness Leadership Program page at workplacewellnesscoe.com. But if we've intrigued you, if you're intrigued to learn more, certainly go visit my podcast interview with Marc, which will be on our podcast page on our website or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.